Imagine you're out on the open sea, the waves rocking your boat gently when suddenly the water explodes with movement. Shadows dart beneath your vessel, and then the impact hits. A massive force shakes your boat as orcas, nature's apex predators, surround you. Recently, these majestic creatures have shown a more dangerous side, with orca attacks on boats becoming more frequent than ever before. Number 1. March 2020. Near the Strait of Gibraltar, a group of fishermen faced terror when orcas surrounded their boat. Initially, the crew was fascinated, but their curiosity turned to horror as the orcas began ramming the boat. Each hit sent shudders through the hull, targeting the rudder and making steering impossible. The men shouted in panic, sending out mayday signals, but with each passing minute, the boat took on more water. By the time the Coast Guard arrived, the boat was partially submerged and one fisherman had been thrown overboard and was never found. Number 2. Luxury yacht in peril. Luxury yacht cruising near the Canary Islands was suddenly ambushed by a pod of orcas. What began as a day of luxury quickly turned into chaos. The orcas repeatedly rammed the boat, causing it to list heavily. Passengers clung to railings, screaming as water began to flood the deck. The captain desperately radioed for help, but as the minutes dragged on, the situation worsened. It wasn't until a nearby vessel responded that the crew and passengers were safely evacuated. The yacht, severely damaged, had to be abandoned. Number 3. Family vacation turns. Deadly. A family's peaceful sailing trip off the coast of Portugal took a deadly turn when their sailboat was surrounded by orcas. Showing no signs of playfulness, the orcas began ramming the rudder, making the boat uncontrollable. As the boat rocked violently, water poured in and the children screamed. The father managed to send out a distress call, but before help could arrive, the boat capsized. The mother and one of the children were pulled from the water by a rescue team. But tragically, the father and the other child were lost. Number 4. Research vessel under siege. A marine research team studying near the Strait of Gibraltar found their vessel under siege by orcas. The pod targeted the rudder, ramming the boat with such force that equipment was knocked overboard. The researchers struggled to stay upright as the boat listed dangerously. With no way to steer and the boat filling with water, they sent out a mayday. By the time the Coast Guard arrived, the vessel was on the brink of capsizing. The team was rescued, but the boat was left severely damaged and had to be towed. Number 5. Whale watching tour turns horrific. A whale watching tour off the coast of the Azores turned horrific when a pod of orcas attacked. Initially, tourists were thrilled to see orcas up close, but their excitement quickly turned to fear as the orcas rammed the boat. Passengers were thrown to the deck, some suffering injuries. The captain tried to steer away, but the orcas' relentless focus on the rudder left the boat dead in the water. Rescue boats arrived to find the tour boat heavily damaged, with several passengers needing medical attention. Number 6. Solo sailor's tragic end. A solo sailor near Cadiz, Spain, faced a nightmare when orcas began circling his sailboat. The sailor attempted to scare them off with flares, but the orcas responded by ramming the boat's rudder. The relentless attacks caused the boat to take on water rapidly. In a desperate attempt, the sailor donned a life jacket and grabbed a radio. However, before rescue could arrive, the boat capsized. Debris was found later, but the sailor's body was never recovered. Number 7. Fishing crew's desperate struggle. A fishing trawler in the Strait of Gibraltar found itself under attack by orcas. The seasoned fishermen had never encountered such aggression. The orcas rammed the boat repeatedly, targeting the rudder and causing it to spin uncontrollably. Attempts to scare off the orcas with loud noises and thrown objects failed. The boat began to take on water, and the crew sent out a mayday. When rescue arrived, the trawler was sinking and one crew member had been injured during the chaos. Number 8. Tourist boat disaster. A tourist boat near the Canary Islands was surrounded by orcas that began ramming it. Passengers who had been taking photos suddenly found themselves thrown to the deck as the boat lurched violently. The captain attempted to steer to safety, but the rudder was disabled. The boat took on water and panic ensued. A nearby vessel responded to the distress call, rescuing passengers, but the boat was left to drift and later sank. Number 9. Speedboat pursuit. A speedboat off the coast of the Azores was pursued by a pod of orcas. The orcas swam close, bumping the boat's stern. The driver tried to accelerate away, but the orcas kept up, their powerful bodies hitting the boat with enough force to crack the hull. In a panic, the passengers grabbed life jackets as water flooded the boat. They were rescued by a passing ship, but one passenger was found drowned, marking a tragic end to the encounter. Number 9. Yacht Club's Day of Chaos. A yacht club outing near Portugal ended in chaos when multiple yachts were attacked by orcas. The orcas focused on the rudders, causing several boats to lose control and take on water. Distress signals filled the airwaves and rescue boats scrambled to assist. One yacht capsized and its passengers were thrown into the sea. Although most were rescued, one person was never found, leaving the club reeling. Number 10. Family's last voyage. A family sailing near the Strait of Gibraltar encountered a pod of orcas that began attacking their sailboat. The boat rocked violently as the orcas rammed the rudder. Attempts to send out a distress call were thwarted by the chaos. The boat capsized and the family was thrown into the water. Only one child survived, clinging to a piece of debris until rescued. The rest of the family was tragically lost. Number 11. Solo kayaker's fatal encounter. A solo kayaker near the Canary Islands faced a terrifying situation when orcas surrounded his kayak. The orcas bumped the kayak, tipping it over. Thrown into the water, the kayaker struggled to stay afloat. He attempted to climb back into his kayak, but the orcas continued their assault. Rescue teams later found the overturned kayak, but the kayaker's body was never recovered. Number 12. Fisherman's last stand. A fishing trawler off the coast of Spain was attacked by orcas that rammed the boat repeatedly. The crew tried to fight back using everything at their disposal to scare the orcas away, but the attacks persisted. The boat began to take on water and a mayday call was sent. Rescue arrived to find the boat partially submerged with 2 crew members clinging to debris. Unfortunately, 1 crew member was missing and presumed drowned. Number 13. Yacht in distress. A luxury yacht near the Azores was ambushed by a pod of orcas. The orcas rammed the yacht, targeting the rudder and causing the boat to lose control. Passengers panicked as water flooded the lower decks. The captain sent out a distress call, but before help could arrive, the yacht began to sink. All passengers were rescued, but the yacht was lost, leaving the survivors shaken and in shock. Number 14. Whale watching tour's tragic end. A whale watching tour off the coast of the Azores turned into a nightmare when orcas began attacking the boat. The tourists, many of whom were children, screamed as the boat rocked violently. The captain tried to maneuver away, but the orcas had disabled the rudder. Water poured into the boat and a mayday call was sent. Rescue teams arrived to find the boat sinking, with several passengers injured and 1 child missing. The incident left a lasting impact on all who witnessed it. Number 15. Research vessel ambushed. Marine research team off the coast of the Azores found their vessel suddenly surrounded by orcas. Initially calm, the situation escalated when the orcas began ramming the boat's rudder. With no control over the vessel, the crew watched helplessly as water started to flood the deck. As the boat leaned to one side, the scientists scrambled to gather essential equipment, abandoning their work as they sent out a mayday. A nearby freighter responded, rescuing the crew just before their boat sank completely. Number 16. Sailboat under siege. During a quiet afternoon sail, a father and his teenage children encountered a pod of orcas near the Strait of Gibraltar. The orcas appeared playful, but within moments they were ramming the sailboat with full force. Each hit sent shudders through the vessel and water began pouring in from cracks in the hull. The father quickly issued a distress signal. Despite their experience, the orcas' relentless attack left them stranded and terrified. A rescue vessel reached them just as the sailboat started to submerge, saving the family but losing the boat. Number 17. Tourist vessel terror. A whale-watching tour near the Canary Islands ended in horror when orcas attacked their boat. The tourists, eager for photos, watched in awe as the orcas approached, only for awe to turn to fear when the orcas began ramming the hull. The impact threw people off their feet, causing injuries and panic. The Coast Guard responded to the mayday, evacuating everyone before the boat took on more water and began to sink. Number 18. Fishing trawler horror. A fishing trawler off Portugal's coast was targeted by a pod of orcas. Initially circling the boat, the orcas' behavior quickly became aggressive. They rammed the trawler, focusing on the rudder. The boat started taking on water, and the crew worked frantically to keep it afloat. The captain managed to send a distress signal, but before rescue could arrive, the boat capsized, throwing the crew into the sea. 4 out of 5 crew members were rescued, while 1 was tragically lost. Number 19. Solo yacht encounter. A solo yachtsman near Cadiz, Spain, was caught off guard when orcas began circling his boat. The sailor tried to steer away, but the orcas rammed the rudder, making steering impossible. As the boat started filling with water, he climbed into a life raft, sending a mayday signal. The orcas continued to bump the raft, creating a terrifying experience for the stranded sailor. After several hours, a passing cargo ship noticed his distress flare and pulled him to safety. Number 20. Luxury yacht panic. A luxury yacht off the coast of the Azores, filled with guests celebrating a wedding, was suddenly attacked by a group of orcas. The orcas rammed the boat's stern, causing it to take on water and sway violently. The guests, in formal attire, were thrown into chaos. Attempts to fend off the orcas with flares were unsuccessful. The yacht began to list heavily and a mayday was sent out. A nearby cruise ship arrived, rescuing the passengers, but the yacht was abandoned, later found capsized. Number 21. Catastrophe. A group of kayakers near the Canary Islands experienced a nightmare scenario when a pod of orcas surrounded them. One kayaker was separated from the group and targeted by the orcas, who repeatedly bumped his kayak until it flipped. Thrown into the water, he tried to climb back into his kayak, but the orca's aggressive behavior continued. His friends, powerless to help, called for rescue. By the time help arrived, the kayaker had drowned, leaving the group devastated. Number 22. Fishing boat capsize. A fishing boat near the Strait of Gibraltar was under siege from a pod of orcas that rammed it repeatedly. The impact caused the boat to begin taking on water, and the crew sent out a distress signal. The boat's rudder was destroyed, leaving them adrift. The orcas' relentless attacks caused the boat to capsize. The crew, thrown into the water, clung to debris. Rescue teams found that hours later, one crew member was missing, swept away by the currents. Number 23. Speedboat pursuit. A speedboat off the Azores coast was pursued by orcas. The driver tried to outmaneuver them, but the orcas kept pace, ramming the boat's stern. The boat spun out of control and began to sink. The orcas circled, but eventually swam away. A passing yacht rescued the shaken survivors, who watched as their speedboat disappeared beneath the waves.